How are you?
Very well, thanks. And yourselves?
Looking lovely, man.
Yeah, not too
Looking
bad.
lovely. You having a
How's
good
your day
day?
going?
Yes, busy day.
Good.
Happy
Congrats
days, happy
on
days.
I seen you've got all the podcasts up on Spotify now.
Yeah, it's on all the platforms. Just waiting for it on Google now. Then that's everywhere.
Yeah. Go on, tell us what kind of cool guests have you got coming on? Who's in the
To be honest with you, I don't know yet. I took a break to turn it into a proper podcast instead of a thing.
Okay.
Hence I've been doing all this background work behind the scenes.
Cool. Did you see we had the global head of SEO of Amazon on 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Really interesting one. So that should be out next week. And then we have the head of SEO of, I don't know if you know ClickUp, the project management tool.
No.
We've been using ClickUp for about 2 years now. I'm obsessed with it. So we've got him coming on a Monday. But yeah, man, it's going to be fun. But let's get straight into this, Mark. You're always on the other side asking the questions, so it's nice to be on the other side. So obviously you mentor a lot of SEOs, right?
Yeah, I do.
What's the common theme that you kind of see around the board of areas to improve on?
It's realistically, to be perfectly honest with you, is people understanding what their true skill set is and how they can help and benefit others. I find that people just go into it saying, yes, I'm an SEO. That means I can work with anybody, but it's not like that. It's making people understand about them. So what do they want to be known for? What are they known for? And I think that's the tricky bit when I'm mentoring people.
And do you mentor more kind of junior SEOs, mid-level, high-level?
It's on a broad range. From people who are just coming into the industry to professionals who've been in the industry quite a while. They've got a certain level of skill set, but then it's about making them think in a different way. Hence the mindset approach and helping them how to streamline things and do things more efficiently and basically making them think as though it's their money they're spending. It's on a broad level of skill set.
And Mark, see, with that sort of mindset approach, is there sort of one mindset that works across all areas, or is it the more junior you have a different mindset for a better, compared to like a more senior SEO, or what's the difference?
When you're talking mindset, because I'm an SEO mindset coach, it's about asking a specific series of questions in a specific order and in a specific way. Now, every person will have a different set of questions depending on their circumstance and what their job role is and what they're trying to achieve. So somebody in-house will be totally different approach to somebody agency side, because agency side is how do you deal on so many different projects at the same time. Yeah. Whereas in-house, it's how do I totally dedicate myself to this one brand. So it is about more or less asking the right questions in the right order. So it's kind of training, but it's making the SEOs think, oh, right, I understand now. Rather than me saying, oh, you need to do X, Y, Z, this is how you do it. It's very important to not just understand that, but go into the nitty-gritty of why they're doing these things as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, Mark, because before that, you've been a head of SEO, you've been a pretty high-level SEO. I would imagine that you were partaking in hiring SEOs at the companies you were at.
Definitely, yes.
So back then, before you kind of took the route of going mindset coaching, was that a big thing that you were kind of looking at when you were hiring people?
Well, I've been hiring people. I've been in the industry 20 years, and literally I've run my own agency. So hiring people has been something I've done for years and years. But for me, I don't care about degrees. I don't even care about the skill set, but I care about the passion. If a person really has the passion and they have a desire and want to learn, and they understand where they personally want to get to, then that's more important to me. I've hired people that said to me, Mark, I just want to come in 9 to 5, do my job and go home and stick with what I do. That's fine, because you understand that person and what they want to do. So there's no point trying to push them into somewhere they don't want to go. But if we get somebody in that's passionate and said, right, I want to, over the next 5 years, become SEO manager or head of SEO, right? But I don't really know what I want to do yet and what direction to go in. Well, that you can work with that person to help them. So for me, when I'm hiring, it's more about the person themselves rather than the skills, because I can teach the skills, no problem.
Yeah. And I'm just going to be devil's advocate on my reply to that. So I love that, by the way. But does that not mean that your focus is put, because training isn't an easy thing. Like I've even learned that. So does that not mean that you're putting a lot more effort into training instead of, let's say when you had your agency, instead of like moving the business forward kind of thing? Or what way do you approach that?
I understand where you're coming from, because it depends what role you're trying to attract. So if your clients are big, massive brands and you need very technical, experienced people, then obviously they need to have a certain skill set for that job role. It's not a case of me saying, well, I don't care what skill set you have, because it has to fit the role within the agency or in-house or whatever you're doing, right? But for me, training has to be a big emphasis, and not just training. I'm talking mentoring. I'm talking being there for the person. I mean, these people that I've mentored over the years, I mean, it's not just been about the job, because what is impacting their life in a negative way outside the job, and how can I help make it better? Because if they're in a right mindset and happy in the work they're doing, then they're going to be so dedicated to it. And I think we need to look at a bigger picture rather than just, that's your job role, that's your skill set, that's the training, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever get hired by sorry, Darius, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, do you think that led to sort of like a higher rate of retention with your own personal staff compared to maybe sort of other agencies that you worked in where there wasn't maybe as much time dedicated to training?
Yeah, I mean, over the years, I've done a lot of training in a lot of agencies and in-house. And there's a broad range. I mean, some agencies I've been in are very focused on training. That's why they brought me in. Some are there where I've just said, okay, what's your job? Well, I've got 30 clients. What, for the team? No, just me. There's other situations where then when I go into agencies, I don't just talk to the team. I talk to the directors. I want to know, well, what have you sold? 1 hour a month. What do you mean 1 hour a month? What actually have you sold? 1 hour a month. So there's no stipulations about what's included. So for me, the team itself, the people, the individuals, has to understand the bigger picture of the whole business, and it's a lot of things stem from pre-sales as well. Pre-sales conversations and understanding what it is that they're supposed to be delivering rather than just 1 hour a month.
Mm-hmm. And with most of your clients for the coaching and training, are they mostly agencies or are they mostly like a specific person?
No, it's Mostly agencies and in-house teams. Then going into more corporate, businesses. I go into like franchise industry, where the objective is for them to how do we, service all these individual franchisees, because in the past I set up a 50 franchisee digital marketing franchise, so I understand that side of it. You see, so I mean it's a wide range of individuals and people, but for me, I don't go in saying, well, I'm training this agency. I'm training each individual, but there might be a commonality around everything I'm training.
Yeah. And just on the franchise thing, because I'm really interested in that. Me and Craig are trying to do something with the franchise in the future. Did you get a lot of inspo from the founder, the movie?
From who, sorry?
The founder of the movie, the McDonald's movie, no?
Oh, no, not at all.
No? So what was your franchise? You set up like a digital marketing agency and then franchised it on?
Yeah, it was like a white labeled franchise. So basically the franchisees was existing, I'd say small to medium sized agencies around the UK. So I had about 50 franchisees, and I went in to help them streamline the business and help them with the sales and help them to build that business in that area. So rather than me franchising my brand, it was kind of a slightly different approach.
Okay, cool. But yeah, even going back on what you were talking about training and onboarding thing, like that's one thing that me and Darius coming out, we see it all the time. Like we go and do the recruitment, we find the A players for you, and then it's like the onboarding process is like either non-existent or like 2 or 3 weeks in, we'll get we had a candidate recently, we placed him for like $120,000, and within 3 weeks he still hadn't had like a video call with all the team. They're a completely remote team. And like there still was, he had no idea who was on the team. He was like, I'm working with one guy. There's like no onboarding process. And he's just like not satisfied with the role. So yeah, I definitely think like the onboarding process is such an important thing. It's like the honeymoon phase. So what's your top tips to, let's just say an agency owner who's listening to this? What's the top tips? Obviously they'd have to go through you and get you on board. But like, what's the kind of top tips that you'd give away?
I tell you what, for the agencies themselves, the massive thing they need to do is create a structure within the agency, so every individual that works in the agency understands what needs to happen to get them to the next level. Right? The problem is I go into so many agencies and I talk to these individuals that work in the agency, and I say, well, what's your goal? Oh, to get to the SEO manager role. Well, what needs to happen for you to get there? I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's a big issue, because individuals within agencies get frustrated because they don't know how to progress. There's no stipulation, because if they receive a document or a guideline or anything that states these are the skills you need to have before you can consider moving up to that level. Now, when you move up to that level, these are the set of skills and what you need to learn to move up to the next. Then that way they have a strict guideline. Obviously, you can tweak things a little, but at least they know as an individual what they need to do, and they won't get frustrated, they won't get bored, and they won't start looking for another job opportunity.
Well, that was one thing. One of our clients, Studio Hawk, they have a career progression map. So exactly what you just talked about, where it's like bullet points. So if you need to hit here, then you get up to this salary bracket, you get this title. After another X amount of months or X amount of years, you move up to here. And it was like one of the best selling points we had on that role. And like one thing as well, like a lot of the SEOs I'm chatting to at the minute, they're not necessarily like, obviously salary is an important factor, but they're not completely motivated by factor. It's more about, okay, how much, if I go into this, where can I be in 2 to 3 years time? What is this role going to actually teach me? Is this going to, like, a lot of SEOs like think it's quite a good thing. They think long term. They're like, okay, if I go in here for 2 years, and rather than taking a 5K increase right now, within 2 years I could nearly maybe double my salary or add, you know, quite a lot on. So I definitely think that's a really, really important factor. What about, yeah, what about onboarding, or not onboarding, sorry, hiring SEOs? What was like one thing that always stood out for you?
Actual hiring them was the actual, it's going to sound stupid, but just getting the job ad out, just getting the right people to come in for the interview. You know, instead of people coming in because they've been told they have to tick a box, because, you know, that for me, that process, the initial process that you sort of solve is the hardest bit. It's kind of, because the problem that I find, job ads are so frustrating, you know, because there's job ads out there, and what do you want? Well, you have to have 10 degrees, and you have to know social media, and you have to know this and that. I mean, it gets confusing, and just to be that process themselves to hire somebody, and I find the more specific you are, telling them what person you want and be realistic at what you can get for that role up front, I think that's the biggest sort of factor around things.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Go on, Josh. No, I was just going to say, like, me and Josh have chatted to clients before in the past who we jump on a call, and by the end of the call, they're actually looking something completely different than they were initially at the start of the call. Like, it's crazy. And then we create the mini website, which we go into like company culture, goals, background, who the candidate will be working with, like team structure, everything like that. Just so whenever we do chat to candidates, they know exactly sort of what they're going to get into before they even start the role, or even if it's worth interviewing them.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So Mark, you've kind of got like so in my head, you've got like a bird's eye view on like the SEO industry. You're dealing with businesses, agencies, individual SEOs. You've been in the industry for about 20 years now. There's obviously a lot of stuff going on right now with recessions, redundancies, all of that. Where do you kind of see the SEO industry going?
Yes, there is, but this is what frustrates me. I mean, as an SEO, you're part of the bigger marketing picture. Your job is to drive new business. Now, as long as you're doing your job and you're helping to help build businesses and driving new business, well, the recession should not impact you. I mean, the SEOs who it will impact are the ones who actually think they're a lot better than they actually are. Mm. So maybe they don't understand things and don't understand it from a business side. Now, I'm very highly motivated to teach SEOs on the business side of things, because unless they understand the bigger picture and how what they're doing impacts on a global scale of that company they're working on, well, they're just messing around. They are a puzzle, a piece in a puzzle, and it needs to fit together, but they need to understand the bigger puzzle around it. And I find that, yes, there's lots and lots of talk about recession. Personally, I'm not seeing any of it, because, in fact, in a recession, marketers and SEOs should be the ones that are flying.
Yeah. Okay, what if I word my question differently to similar approach, but where do you see SEO going with all this AI, ChatGPT 4 has just came out. What about that way?
You see, oh my God, you had to, didn't you? You had to wind me up. You had to get me going. It's just, oh my God. I mean, how the industry are actually doing any work at the moment is beyond me. They're just so fixated around AI, you know, GPT-4, ChatGPT, everything. They're just so fixated. But if they use AI to their strengths to streamline research, to streamline activity like pre-implementation, you know, then that's where it benefits them. So if it used to take them 10 hours to do something, AI can streamline the research part of it. And I think that's where they need to get into this mindset of AI isn't a replacement for anything. It's just another tool to help streamline things, you know, on the research part, on the ideation. I mean, ideation, that's where I see it coming, and that's ideation and research is where I see it fitting in.
Yeah.
Are you using it much at the minute for any sort of processes?
I'm not an expert on it. I've dabbled in it, but yes, I've tested it for research. It pings up ideas I haven't thought about. Some of it's rubbish, some of it's good I haven't thought about. Yeah, I mean it is, but you need to put context. And I think within the industry, this is another thing. People need to put context into every single thing they do. Just because a tool tells you something doesn't mean that that's the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's context. Same with AI. Put context into everything it spits out, but don't waste your time on it too much.
Mm-hmm. And so, Mark, I seen you at Brighton in October, Brighton SEO. Are you going in April?
That's the plan. I've got a couple of big things that in the pipeline, and if that comes off, I probably won't be going. But the plan is to go, yes, at this time.
How important is it, do you think, for SEOs to go to events?
100%. Yeah. I think without events, I think for me, it's not so much listening to the talks. I mean, that's one part of it. But it's about when individuals go to events, they need to talk to other people. I see a lot of SEOs going to events and staying in the bubble that they come with. Don't just talk to other people, because everybody, no matter who you are, has a different situation, and they have different thoughts, and they have different problems they need to do. And I think the biggest thing about going to events is starting them conversations.
Yeah,
I
remember
do you sort of recommend to people? Sorry, what other sort of events would you recommend to people apart from obviously Brighton?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you have to look at each event dependent on your personal career projection. You know, you need to look at events and think, well, will going to this event help me to get closer to my personal goals? Yes or no? So does flying halfway around the world to go to a 2-day event, is that going to be worth, and will it help me get closer to my personal goals? Yes or no?
Yeah. Well, I love traveling anyway. So me and Craig are going to Chiang Mai in November for an SEO event. Darius is going to come to Austin with us. Can't remember when that is, but any excuse for me to travel and bring the team with me, I'm all in. But yeah, I completely agree with about Brighton SEO and stuff about like networking. Like a lot of people just go, and I get it. Like people want to listen to talks, but I remember the first time me and Craig went back in October. or must be a year and a half ago now. Craig has done networking stuff before. I haven't. I'm a pretty confident guy, but like, put me in a room full of people I don't know, I'm not like the best. I'm pretty good now. But Craig was like, okay, Josh, I'm going to go around the room this way. You're going to go around this way. We'll meet in the middle. You tell me who the key players were this side. I'll tell you who the key players were, and we'll meet back again. And I was like, no, absolutely not. And it just didn't work out. But Brighton's always good fun. We're going to Brighton SEO, and then we're going to Ecom Live over in Belfast the week after. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be good. But yeah, so I guess another thing you've been doing as well, I'd love to pick your brain on, is building a personal brand within the industry. How important do you think that is?
Well, for me personally, it's the thing, because for years and years and years, I worked in the white labeled space. I built up really fantastic contacts, but then everyone else were getting the credit. I thought to myself as the biggest unknown SEO specialist. You see, and I think personal branding in today's marketplace is so important on lots of levels. But obviously you need to look at the personal branding on, well, the why. You know, does sitting on Twitter all day talking to other SEOs get you closer to where you want to be? Well, probably not, but people do it thinking it's personal branding. When you're talking personal branding, you have to do personal branding, but in the right places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Who's been your favorite person you've had on the podcast so far?
Oh, obviously you.
I actually didn't want that to be the answer, but fair enough.
Is there a reason, Mark, just as why it's like unscripted? Is that sort of any sort of thinking behind that, or is it just sort of to keep it off the cuff?
The total honest truth why it's unscripted is, for one, I've got a bad memory, and two, so I can't remember what I'm supposed to ask, and two, I just don't have time to edit it.
Mm-hmm.
So I come up with the unscripted, and plus me, I find that if it's unscripted and the guest doesn't know what I'm going to ask, I sort of get a lot more out of it, you know, because sometimes things can be too scripted.
Yeah.
You know, where everything the guest understands, they're pre-prepared with the answers, and I find that golden nuggets come out of it.
Yeah, it takes away the fun from it as well. Like that's one thing I learned of Diary of an SEO or Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. Like, he has a research team that goes on to everything, and I get it, he gets the juicy questions, but it takes away the thrill from it of just like asking and exploring questions. But anyway, Mark, you just came out with a book, right?
With the what, sorry?
A book.
Well, I started writing an article that I got a little bit carried away with, and it sort of turned into a book, yes.
What is it? It's all about freelancing, right?
Yeah, I mean, the guide's online on my website, but then I'm adding to the guide and going to turn it into, I'm in the process of turning it into a book to help freelancers. Just the reason I've done it is because for years and years, I've had lots of SEOs leave the very nice, cushy job and well-paid job to go freelance, but they didn't really get the reality once they've gone freelance. And because I was having these conversations over and over again with people that's just gone freelance and all the challenges they're facing, I thought, one day I'm just going to write it all down. And so I want something out there instead of all these case studies about how go freelance and you can make 6 figures and blah, blah, blah. I just wanted reality. Once you understand reality, you can then make informed decisions, but more importantly, you can understand, well, okay, I might face this challenge. What do I do in that circumstance?
Yeah. Well, I listened to your podcast with Nick Leroy, and it was very realistic instead of all the things that you see all over social media. So I look forward to having a look at that. But anyways, Mark, that's our time up. So thank you so much for coming on this. Hopefully I'll see you down at Brighton. But then I hope all your things go well as well, so that you're not there. but yeah, man, thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate the time, Mark.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Perfect. See you,
Have
Mark.
a good weekend.
Have a good one.
Cheers. Thanks.
See you later.